Dexter is supposed to be calculated, controlled, careful. But sometimes his actions are so off, you can't help but wonder what he was thinking. Some of his choices didn't just break the code, they broke basic logic. Let's go through the most unhinged moments in Dexter that made absolutely zero sense, even for him. Ah yes, the very first kill. A moment meant to introduce us to Dexter's flawless process. And what does he do? He walks up to a terrified man, with plastic stretched tightly across his own face. Like, how are you breathing? This wasn't just unhinged, it was impractical. Imagine being murdered, and the last thing you see is a man looking like this. That's not terrifying, that's confusing. And yet, it sets the tone. Dexter, the man who supposedly lives by the code, blend in, leave no trace, never get caught, is already drawing attention to himself with something that has no purpose. It's not for protection, it's not to disguise his identity, it's just there. What's worse is that it completely undermines what we're told about him, that he's precise, that he doesn't make mistakes. But here we see a contradiction between how Dexter sees himself and what he actually does. And this isn't the last time. This moment is symbolic, not because it's brutal, but because it shows us something crucial. Dexter thinks he's in control, but his actions tell a very different story. Season 2 gave us a Dexter we never asked for, one that can't keep his pants on. Yes, I'm talking about the completely out-of-character sex addiction plotline. The same Dexter who once described sex as gross suddenly acts like a hormone-driven teenager. And not just with anyone, with Lila, the most unstable person he's ever met. Let's not forget, Dexter's relationship with Rita was based on emotional distance. He was drawn to her precisely because she didn't expect intimacy. That was his comfort zone. But now, he's cheating, lying, sneaking off to sleep with someone who literally sets things on fire when she's upset. Psychologically, it makes no sense. Dexter is supposed to be detached, someone who mimics emotions but doesn't feel them. So where does this sudden obsessive desire come from? Is it lust? Is it rebellion? Is it just sloppy writing? He lies to his sponsor, gaslights Rita, ignores every part of the code, all to chase after chaos. And in the process, he nearly exposes himself as the Bay Harbor Butcher. Was this Dexter Morgan or an episode of Jersey Shore, Miami Metro Edition? Still, we did get one moment of clarity, Dexter finally wrapping Lila in plastic. The relationship started with impulse, but at least it ended with structure. But don't relax just yet, because the next moment might be his most ridiculous decision yet. The romantic date on the kill table. Yep, that actually happened. Dexter brings Hannah McKay, a known killer with a track record of poisoning her partners, to his perfectly prepped kill room. He sedates her, wraps her, stands over her with a knife, and then changes his mind. Not because she convinced him, not because she begged, but because he was into it. It's one of those moments where you don't just question Dexter, you question the writers. He spent years perfecting the code only to throw it out the window because he got butterflies? Let's be clear, Hannah wasn't misunderstood. She was dangerous, manipulative, and already on his list. And somehow, that turns into a relationship. He doesn't just let her go, he trusts her, moves in with her, and as we'll get to later, leaves his child in her care. What happened to the killer who only targeted those who slipped through the cracks? Or the one who never let emotion interfere with a kill? In this moment, Dexter isn't following the code. He's rewriting it with heart emojis. This is one of those moments that left a lot of viewers confused. And understandably so. Debra Morgan wasn't just Dexter's sister. She was his last emotional anchor. The one person who knew his secret and still tried to love him through it. And after everything they went through, her death deserved weight, closure, a meaningful end. Instead, Dexter carries her lifeless body to his boat, sails out into open water, and drops her into the ocean without a word. No ceremony, no explanation, nothing. It's a moment the show presents as poetic, almost peaceful, but it contradicts everything we know about Dexter. He's meticulous, ritualistic, and deeply attached to patterns, especially around death. Yet here, he treats Debra's death like an afterthought. And symbolically, the choice is jarring. This is the same ocean he's used for years to get rid of the people he kills. So placing Debra there, in the exact same way, blurs a line that had always been clear for him: family versus targets. It raises uncomfortable questions. Was this a moment of grief or escape? Was she a loved one or just one more problem to erase? Whatever the intention was, the execution felt cold, rushed, and emotionally disconnected, which, ironically, is everything Dexter claims not to be when it comes to the people he cares about. Season 6 took the show in a more symbolic, almost theatrical direction, and while the religious overtones and apocalyptic themes made for a dramatic shift, one element stood out for all the wrong reasons: the murals. Travis Marshall transforms an abandoned church into a personal gallery of end-times chaos, complete with blood, fire, and for some reason a detailed painting of Dexter's face. Not a vague sketch, not a shadowy figure, a full, unmistakable likeness staring back from the wall. At that point in the story, Travis had figured out Dexter's identity, but this raises a lot of questions, practical ones. When exactly did he find the time to paint all this? Where did he get the supplies? And more importantly, how did nobody notice a fully lit, artistically enhanced murder shrine in a building the police were actively interested in? Even more strange is Dexter's reaction. He walks in, sees his own face on the wall, and barely reacts. No panic, no urgency, just mild surprise. Given how cautious Dexter usually is about his identity, this should have triggered alarms. But instead, the moment passes without consequences. In a season that already tested logic, this was a point where suspension of disbelief had to work overtime. And not just for the audience, but for the character himself. This is where Dexter's judgment takes a turn that's hard to justify, even by his standards. After Deb dies and he fakes his own death, he decides to disappear completely, but not before handing over full responsibility for his son to Hannah McKay, a woman who is not only a known killer, but one who previously poisoned Deb and had a clear pattern of eliminating anyone in her way. And somehow, Dexter rationalizes this as the safest option for Harrison. No legal custody arrangements, no checks, no balances. Just a forged passport and a plane ticket to Argentina. The logic behind this choice feels incredibly thin. Hannah may have cared for Harrison, but she was also someone Dexter had once prepared to kill. Trusting her with a child, especially one who'd already lost both maternal figures, isn't just risky, it's reckless. There's also a deeper contradiction here. Dexter has always been obsessed with protecting the innocent, but in this case, he abandons his own son to a life of secrecy, loss, and potential danger, all while removing himself entirely from the equation. It's not selfless, it's not noble, it's avoidance, wrapped in the illusion of sacrifice. And for a man who lived by the code, this felt like its complete abandonment. Fast forward to New Blood, and we see Dexter make what is arguably the most self-destructive decision of his entire life. After years of carefully following the code, only targeting those who deserved it, Dexter kills Logan, a completely innocent police officer. And for what? To avoid arrest. That's it. There's no moral justification here. Logan wasn't corrupt, abusive, or a threat to anyone. He was simply doing his job. And yet, Dexter strangles him without a second thought, shattering the one principle that supposedly defined him: don't kill the innocent. This wasn't a moment of necessity, it was a moment of panic. And it's completely out of character for someone who once spent days planning every move, every alibi, every exit. What makes it worse is the chain reaction it triggers. Killing Logan blows Dexter's cover wide open, alienates Harrison, and ultimately seals his fate. Harrison no longer sees Dexter as a dark hero balancing the scales. He sees him for what he's become, someone who kills when it's convenient, not when it's right. In a single impulsive act, Dexter undoes decades of control and calculation. And in doing so, he proves something he never wanted to admit. The dark passenger was never under control. It was always just waiting for the right moment to take over completely. Okay, time for a lighter one, but still one of Dexter's most questionable habits: the blood slides. A souvenir from every kill, neatly labeled, stacked in a custom wooden box, and hidden in his air conditioner. For someone who prides himself on staying undetected, this was a glaring vulnerability. He works in forensics, surrounded by trained investigators, and still, he keeps a physical collection of evidence that directly links him to dozens of murders. It's not just impractical, it's arrogant, almost like his own twisted version of collecting Pokemon cards. Gotta catch 'em all, except instead of Pikachu, it's murder victims. And hiding them in the air conditioning vent? That's not clever. That's the first place anyone looks in every crime drama ever. In the end, it wasn't the killings that got Dexter caught. It was the trophies. Because the truth is, Dexter didn't just slip up. Deep down, he wanted someone to find him. So, what did we learn? That beneath all the careful planning and cold logic, Dexter was a mess. Not always. Not even most of the time. But often enough that we can't ignore it. From bizarre murders to terrible parenting, from romantic disasters to logic-defying decisions, Dexter's most unhinged moments remind us of one thing: even monsters make mistakes. But maybe that's why we kept watching. Not because he was flawless, but because deep down, he was just as chaotic as the rest of us. Which moment do you think was the most unhinged? Drop it in the comments. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.